She first saw the puppy on a road that seemed to stretch endlessly into nowhere. It was late afternoon, the sky washed in that quiet gold that happens right before sunset, when the world feels like it, holding its breath. Emily was walking alone, her backpack heavy, her mind somewhere far away. She had left town that morning without saying much to anyone. Sometimes she did that, just walked until her thoughts settled into silence. At first, she didn't notice the small shape trotting behind her. It wasn't tea until she stopped to drink some water that she heard the soft scuff of tiny paws on gravel. When she turned, she saw it, a thin, scruffy puppy with ears too big for its head, and eyes that held that kind of sadness only animals seem to carry. It stopped the moment she looked at it, tail tucked low, as if unsure whether to trust her. "Hey, little one," she whispered, voice almost cracking. She knelt, held out her hand. The puppy stayed still for a moment, trembling slightly, then took a few hesitant steps forward. Emily noticed it had no collar, or so she thought, just matted fur, dust and hunger. She gave it a piece of her sandwich, and it ate like it hadn't tasted food in days. Then, when she stood up to leave, it followed. Quietly, step after step, always a few feet behind. She smiled to herself. "Go home," she murmured, knowing full well that it probably didn't have one. For the next few miles, every time she turned around, it was there, limping a little, breathing hard but refusing to stop. Something about its persistence softened something inside her. It had been a long time since anyone or anything had followed her like that. By the time the sun began to sink, painting the road in long shadows, she stopped again. The puppy sat down beside her, panting softly. She looked at it and laughed quietly. "You're really not giving up, huh?" That's when she noticed it, something glinting faintly around its neck, hidden beneath the dirty fur. A small, rusted tag. She frowned. She could have sworn it didn't have one before. Maybe she just hadn't seen it clearly. Gently, she brushed the fur aside to read it. And what she saw there, the name, the engraving, made her freeze. Her throat tightened. The world around her seemed to vanish, replaced by a ringing silence. She fell to her knees, her hands trembling as she traced the letters. Because that tag bore the name of someone she had lost years ago, someone who was never supposed to come back. News. Emily, mulher jovem adulta, cerca de 25, 30 anos, cabelos castanhos longos e soltos, aparência cansada, porém delicada, olhos expressivos e melancólicos, pele clara, veste roupas simples de viagem e carrega uma mochila pesada, introspectiva, solitária, emocionalmente ferida. Busca paz interior em caminhadas longas, sensível e empática. Filhote. Cachorro pequeno, magro e sujo, pelagem curta e desgrenhada de cor indefinida, provavelmente marrom clara ou dourada, orelhas grandes demais para a cabeça, olhos tristes e profundos, sem coleira visível, a princípio cauda baixa e comportamento tímido, porém persistente. Transmite fragilidade e lealdade e uma conexão misteriosa com o passado. Emily couldn't breathe for a moment. Her eyes blurred, her pulse thudding in her ears. She turned the tag over again, certain she must be seeing things. Maybe it was just the same name, just a coincidence. But no. She knew that engraving. She knew the way the letters were carved, a little uneven, like someone had done it by hand. The tag read, Buddy, property of L. Thompson. Her brother's name, Liam. She whispered it aloud, almost afraid of the sound of it. The air felt heavier somehow, like the past was closing in around her. Liam had been gone for 6 years, lost in a storm that wrecked half the town, the night everything changed. He'd gone out looking for his dog, for Buddy. That was the last anyone ever saw of him. And now here was this puppy, too young to be the same one, and yet wearing that same rusted tag. It didn't make sense. Emily sank down onto the dirt, staring at the puppy as it tilted its head, watching her with wide, trusting eyes. "Where did you come from?" she whispered. It whimpered softly, almost like it was trying to answer. She looked down the road, nothing but endless asphalt disappearing into the orange haze of sunset, then back toward the town she had left that morning. Somehow, for the first time in years, she didn't know which way to go. Her chest ached with memories she had tried to bury. Liam's laugh, the way he'd chase her around the yard, that stupid cap he always wore backwards, and the night he disappeared, the screaming wind, the police lights, her mother's face pale and empty. Emily had never forgiven herself for that night. She'd begged him not to go after the dog. She remembered shouting, slamming the door, the way his voice faded into the rain. Now here she was holding the proof that something or someone had found her again. She reached for the tag once more. The engraving had worn down over the years, but beneath the rust she could still see faint etchings on the back, something Liam had scratched there long ago. If lost, find Emily. Her name. Her breath hitched. Tears she didn't know she'd been holding back started to fall one by one. She whispered to the little dog, "You found me." The puppy wagged its tail softly, resting its head against her knee as if it understood. Emily sat there for a long time, the sky deepening to twilight, until the world turned blue and cold. Eventually she picked up the puppy, held it close, and started walking again. She didn't know where she was headed, but something told her she couldn't turn back just yet. There was a reason this dog had found her. There had to be. She walked until the horizon abandoned its last thread of light, and the road began to taste like night. The puppy, Buddy, she forced herself to call him, kept pace at her heel, as if he had always belonged there, as if he'd known her footsteps before he ever heard them. Every so often he'd trot ahead, then glance back, checking, making sure she was still coming. Emily tried to steady her breathing, but the quiet pressed close. She thought she heard water somewhere in the dark. Maybe the creek that ran parallel to this stretch of highway, the same creek that swelled into a river when storms came hard. She remembered that night like a bruise she never let anyone see. Rain driven sideways, sirens slicing the wind, the shape of her mother in the doorway calling Liam's name in a voice that had already lost him. And she remembered the silence afterward, the kind that moves into a house and refuses to leave. She had spent 6 years learning to function inside that silence, furnishing it with errands and small talk and a job at the bookstore that smelled like dust and paper secrets. But emptiness is patient. It waits in the corners, and when it finds an opening, it climbs back into your chest. Buddy stopped suddenly, nose lifted, listening to a sound Emily could not hear. Then he made a decision and veered off the road onto a narrow path she might have missed in daylight, a thin ribbon of dirt through brush that clung to the slope. "Where are we going?" Emily asked. Though there was only the dog to hear her, she followed. Branches scratched her arms. The moon was late, but eventually found them, spilling a dim silver like a memory that realized it had been forgotten. The path spilled them out at a fence she recognized, though it took a second for recognition to turn into words. The old Miller place, vacant for years since the foreclosure and the divorce and the secrets nobody pretended not to know. The porch had collapsed on one side. A wind chime, tangled in itself, knocked a weak rhythm against a splintered post. Buddy slipped beneath the fence and sat on the far side, watching her with an insistence that felt almost human. Emily climbed through a gap, heart thudding. "Why here?" she whispered. Buddy padded to the back, past a shed whose roof had folded like a paper hat. He put his paws against the door and scratched once, not frantic, almost ceremonial. Emily felt the old hinge give under her hand. The door swung inward. The smell of damp wood and something metallic, old tools, old blood, old rain, rose to meet her. For a moment she thought of turning back, of carrying the dog home and pretending none of this had ever happened, but she had spent too many years pretending. She stepped inside. There was enough moonlight slipping through the broken slats to show her a workbench along the far wall, crowded with jars and screws, and a soldering iron so ancient it might have belonged to someone's grandfather. Hanging from a nail, almost mistaken for trash, was a cluster of thin metal discs on a wire. Dog tags, hand-cut, some dented, some polished smooth by fingers that had turned them over and over while thinking of lost things. Emily reached out, fingers trembling. She touched one. It was warm, as if someone had held it recently. On the workbench were sandpaper squares, a small hammer, a set of letter stamps, the kind used to pound names into metal by hand. She found a scrap of paper with lines of names and phone numbers, some crossed out, some circled, and one near the top, written twice as if whoever had written it needed to see it a second time to believe it. Liam Thompson. A sound escaped her, something between a laugh and a sob. "No," she said aloud. "No, that's not—" But the room did not negotiate. Beneath the paper lay a photograph, water-warped at the edges. Liam on the dock by the lake, cap backward, grin lazy. Buddy, the original Buddy, balanced on his forearms like a proud secret. The back of the photo carried a date in her mother's handwriting and a phrase she could feel more than read. "Come home when you can." Emily pressed the photo to her chest. Behind her, Buddy whined, a small, urgent sound. She turned. On a low shelf, almost hidden behind a bucket, sat a shortwave radio, the kind Liam used to keep in his room, the kind that snarled with lonely voices from other counties when the weather went bad. Its red indicator light blinked softly, alive. Emily froze. The sound came again, closer this time, deliberate. A slow drag of weight over wood, then stillness. She held her breath, every nerve on edge, her eyes locked on the doorway. Buddy let out a low whine, not of fear, but of recognition. He trotted toward the noise, tail low, ears twitching. "Buddy, wait," Emily whispered, but the puppy didn't stop. The shed's door creaked open wider, and moonlight spilled over the ground. A figure stood at the edge of the yard, half hidden in the shadows of the ruined house, tall, shoulders slightly hunched. Emily's heart pounded so hard she could hear it in her ears. "Hello?" she called out, her voice trembling. "Who's there?" The figure didn't move at first. Then, slowly, a man stepped into the light. His clothes were worn, a jacket torn at the sleeve, hair longer than she remembered it, streaked with grey. But there was no mistaking him. Emily stumbled backward, her breath catching in her throat. "No, that can't be... Em?" His voice was rough, low, uncertain. "Is that really you?" For a moment, the world tilted. Every sound, the wind through the broken boards, the soft rustle of the trees, fell away until there was only his voice. She blinked hard, trying to convince herself that it was some cruel dream. But the man standing there was Liam, her brother, alive. Emily shook her head, tears already welling in her eyes. "This isn't possible. You're dead. We looked for you. For weeks. They said—" She couldn't finish. The words caught in her throat like shards of glass. Liam took a hesitant step forward, hands raised. I know what they said. But I couldn't come back. Not then. Not after what happened." The puppy, Buddy, ran to him, tail wagging furiously, leaping against his leg. Liam knelt, scratching behind its ear with a tenderness that made Emily's heart twist. "Good boy," he murmured. "You found her." Emily covered her mouth, the world spinning around her. "You sent the dog?" He nodded slowly. "I didn't know if you'd believe it was me. I thought maybe Buddy would bring you here." Her body trembled from the weight of 1,000 emotions she didn't have words for. Anger, relief, disbelief, love. "Where have you been, Liam?" she demanded. "All these years?" He looked away toward the dark horizon. "I wish I could tell you it was simple, that I just got lost or hurt, but the truth is worse than that." He took a deep breath. "The night of the storm, I found the old Buddy. He was trapped near the riverbank. The current was rising fast. I got him free, but by the time I tried to climb back, the bridge had already collapsed. I was swept downstream." Emily listened in silence, her hands clenched tight at her sides. "When I woke up, I was miles away, broken ribs, a concussion. A man found me, a drifter who lived off the grid, near the woods. He took me in, kept me alive. By the time I was strong enough to go home, I saw the flyers, the police, the memorial they were planning." His voice cracked. "They thought I was gone. You thought I was gone. So why didn't you come back?" she whispered. Liam hesitated. His eyes, once bright and reckless, now looked haunted. "Because I didn't remember who I was. Not for a long time. The accident. It took pieces of me. Names. Faces. I didn't even remember you until months later." He looked down at the puppy. "When I finally did, I came back. But by then you'd moved away. Mom had gotten sick. Everything was different." Emily wiped her face, anger flickering beneath the grief. "You could have written, called, anything." "I tried," he said softly. "I tried, Em. But I couldn't face what I left behind. I didn't know how." The silence between them was thick, full of years that could never be returned. Finally, Emily took a small step toward him, her voice breaking. "Then why now? Why send this dog to find me?" Liam's expression darkened. He glanced toward the house, as if the walls were listening. "Because something's not right, Em. Someone's been watching me. Ever since I came back, things have been happening, strange things. And I think, whoever it is, they know about us. About that night." Emily frowned. "What are you talking about?" He shook his head. "I'll explain. But not here. Not tonight." He looked around nervously, then back at her. "We need to leave before they come back." "Who?" The headlights carved long white scars across the yard, swallowing everything in their path. Emily flinched, shielding her eyes. Liam grabbed her arm and pulled her behind the shed. "Stay quiet," he hissed. The low rumble of an engine vibrated through the ground, slow, deliberate, like whoever was driving knew exactly what they were looking for. Buddy pressed against Emily's leg, trembling but silent. The air smelled of gasoline and wet earth. Through the gap in the boards, she could see a dark SUV rolling to a stop near the fence. 2 doors opened. Boots hit the ground, the crunch of gravel. Then voices, low, male, calm in a way that made her blood run cold. "Car's still warm," one said. "He's close." Liam closed his eyes, swearing under his breath. Emily looked at him, demanding answers with her eyes. He mouthed later, pressing a finger to his lips. The second voice spoke, deeper, slower. "You said he wouldn't come back here." "I didn't think he would," the first man replied. "But he left too much behind, he always does." The sound of a metallic click, the unmistakable slide of a gun being checked. Emily's stomach lurched. Whoever they weren't just looking to talk. The men split up. One started toward the house, the other circled around the shed. Liam's grip tightened on Emily's hand. "When I say run," he whispered, "you run, no questions." "Liam, what did you do?" she whispered back. He met her gaze, guilt flickering in the half-light. "It's not what I did, it's what I found." The footsteps came closer, leaves crunching under heavy boots. Liam pushed Emily toward the back wall. "Now," he breathed. They burst from behind the shed, sprinting into the dark. The puppy followed, a flash of movement at their heels. Shouts erupted behind them, flashlights swinging wildly through the night. "There, don't let them get to the road." Emily's lungs burned as they tore through the brush, branches whipping her arms and face. The ground sloped downward toward the creek, swollen and fast from last week's rain. "Liam, we can't," she started, but he was already moving, hand outstretched. "We have to," he said. "It's the only way." They splashed into the freezing water, gasping as it pulled at their legs. Buddy barked once, panic in his voice, then leapt in after them. The current was strong, stronger than Emily remembered, dragging at her feet. Liam caught her wrist and pulled her along the far bank until they stumbled out onto muddy grass, soaked and shaking. The voices had faded, drowned out by the sound of rushing water. For now they were safe. Emily collapsed beside the puppy, her heart racing. "Liam," she whispered, "you need to tell me what's going on." He sat down beside her, staring at the black ribbon of river under the moon. "It started when I came back," he said quietly. "When I went looking for the old house, I found something. Something I shouldn't have, a file locked in a tin box under the floorboards." "What kind of file?" "Government records, experiments, and names, Em. Names of people from our town, people who disappeared after the flood. I thought it was just data, something old, but then they came for me. They took everything. I barely got away." Emily stared at him, disbelief and fear battling inside her. "You're saying this is about some kind of cover-up?" He nodded. "And Buddy? He wasn't just a message. He was trained. They were experimenting with memory, tracking through scent and signal. I think he was part of it." She blinked, shaking her head. "You're saying they experimented on a dog?" "Not just on dogs," Liam said softly. "On people too." The weight of his words hung heavy between them. Emily looked down at the puppy, small, innocent, trembling beside her, and felt her heart twist. "So why me?" she whispered. "Why send Buddy to me?" "Because you were on that list, Em," Liam said, his voice breaking. "Your name was there too." Emily felt the world tilt again. The night seemed to close in around her. The whisper of trees, the hum of water, the echo of everything she didn't yet understand. Buddy whimpered and pressed closer, his tag glinting faintly in the moonlight. And that's when she realized something else. The tag was different now. The rusted metal had been replaced. The engraving was new. It no longer said, "Property of L. Thompson." It said, "Return to Facility 9. Emily stared at the tag until the letters blurred into shapes. Return to Facility 9. The words looked freshly cut, edges clean and sharp, reflecting moonlight in quick flashes. She felt her stomach twist. "Liam," she said slowly, "this tag wasn't like this before." He took it from her hand, ran a thumb over the engraving and swore softly. "They updated it, which means they can still track him." "Track him? You said—" "I thought I disabled it." He stood, scanning the tree line, voice tight. "They must have reactivated the signal when they realized Buddy had found you. That's why they knew to come tonight." Emily felt cold move through her, deeper than the river water still clinging to her clothes. "Then we have to get rid of it," she said. "No," Liam answered. "If we destroy it, they'll know we're running. But if we use it—" He looked toward the dark horizon. "We might be able to end this." Buddy sat at their feet, tail still, eyes locked on Liam as if waiting for a command. The wind shifted, carrying the faint hum of tires on a faraway road. Emily hugged herself, suddenly aware of how small the world felt out here, just the woods, the river, the ghosts of their past. "What is Facility 9? She asked. Liam hesitated. It was supposed to be a rescue center during the floods, but it turned into something else. A private company took over the funding. They called it research, behavioral adaptation in trauma recovery. But it was about control, controlling responses, erasing fear, guilt, pain. They started with animals then. His voice cracked. Then they started testing on volunteers, people who lost someone in the flood. Her voice went thin. Like me, he nodded. They watched the town for years, recorded patterns. They knew exactly which houses would sign up, who would be desperate enough to try anything to forget. Emily looked at the puppy again, her mind spinning. Then what does that make him? He's not just some stray, is he? No, Liam said quietly. He's a trigger, a reminder built to lead you back, maybe to see how you'd react when you found the tag. The words landed heavy between them. Emily felt the ground tilt, the night pressing closer. She reached down, touched Buddy's head. The dog leaned into her hand, warm and real. He's not a trigger, she whispered. He's alive. Liam's eyes softened. I know. That's what they never understood. From somewhere distant came the faint echo of engines, more than one this time. Emily turned toward the sound. They're coming again, aren't they? Yes. Liam picked up the tag, turned it in his fingers until it caught the light, and slipped it into his pocket. They think we'll run, but we're not running anymore. He took a deep breath. There's an old service tunnel near the creek bed, half a mile from here. It leads straight under what used to be the North Highway checkpoint. That's where Facility 9 was built. If the structure's still there, we'll find answers. Emily hesitated. And if it's not, then we'll bury whatever's left. They started walking. The forest thinned, giving way to open fields washed pale by moonlight. The night smelled of rain and rust. Every few minutes, Liam glanced back to make sure Buddy was keeping up. Emily's thoughts spiraled in silence. She tried to remember details of her life, school, work, the day she left town, but the edges of those memories suddenly felt soft, blurred, like they'd been edited by someone else. Was that what they did to her? The tunnel entrance appeared as a low stone arch half hidden under vines. Liam knelt, brushed away dirt and pried open a rusted grate. The air that came out was stale, cold, like a breath held too long. Stay close, he said. Don't let go of my hand. They climbed down into the dark. The passage smelled of metal and forgotten rain. Water dripped steadily from somewhere above, echoing like a clock in a cavern. Emily's flashlight beam caught shapes on the wall, faded warning signs, paint peeled by time. Facility 9, authorized personnel only. She felt her chest tighten. The white light swallowed everything. Walls, air, thought. Emily threw up a hand to shield her eyes. Somewhere behind the glare, a door hissed open. A voice echoed through hidden speakers, smooth and almost kind. Welcome back, Subject E19. You've completed your retrieval cycle. Emily froze. The words didn't make sense. She turned to Liam, but his expression said he'd understood before she did. His mouth opened as if to speak, but no sound came. What did they call me? She whispered. The voice continued, unbothered. Cognitive response to emotional stimulus, 97%. Excellent work. Please remain calm while the program resets. No, Liam shouted. He rushed to the console, slamming his fists against the keyboard. You don't get to take her again. The lights flickered. On another monitor, lines of code crawled across the screen like veins. Facility 9, behavioral loop active. Emily staggered backward. Her pulse thundered in her ears. She felt something stir inside her memory, like a door she hadn't known was there slowly opening. Flashes, men in white coats, a room with mirrored walls, voices saying she won't remember. She clutched her head, gasping. Liam, what's happening to me? He turned to her, desperate. They built it to make you forget, to erase the night of the flood, your trauma, your guilt. But they didn't just erase memories, Em. They rewrote them. She blinked through tears. So this, me leaving, finding Buddy, was part of their test, he said. They wanted to see if you'd still follow emotion, if empathy could rebuild what they destroyed. He reached for her shoulders. None of it was supposed to be real. Emily shook her head. No, you're wrong. I felt it. The rain, the loss, the road. I'm real, he said quickly, voice breaking. But the world around you isn't. It's a loop they trapped us in. I got out once. I thought I could save you if I came back inside. The hum of machines rose higher, the walls trembling. A siren pulsed through the chamber. On the main screen, a countdown began. System reset 059. Liam looked at her, eyes wild. If that timer hits 0, they'll wipe us both. We have to end it. He pointed to a panel near the far wall, an emergency shutdown switch sealed under glass. Emily hesitated. If we shut it down, what happens to us? I don't know, he admitted. But at least it'll be our choice. Buddy barked, the sound sharp and pleading, as if urging her forward. Emily's mind raced, memories flashing like sparks. Her mother's laugh, Liam's grin, the taste of salt air that night by the river. Some were real, others. She couldn't tell anymore. But she knew one thing. She didn't want to forget again. She took a step toward the panel, then another. The timer read row 19. Liam smashed the glass with his elbow, blood streaking down his arm. Together, he said. She nodded. Their hands found each other's over the switch. 005. Em, he whispered. Whatever happens, remember, none of this was your fault. The final second blinked. She pulled the lever. The world exploded in light, then vanished. When Emily opened her eyes again, she was lying on damp grass. The sky above was grey, the air soft with dawn. The sound of the river murmured nearby. For a moment she thought it had all been a dream. Then she felt the gentle weight of something against her arm. Buddy, breathing slow, alive. She looked around, heart pounding, but Liam was gone. Only his cap lay beside her.